The candlelight doesn't flicker. That's the first thing you notice in the stone-walled dining room of the Valenti estate. Even the flames understand obedience. 12 men in tailored black suits stand motionless around a table draped in Irish linen, their breathing synchronized like a choir that's forgotten how to sing. The Sicilian wine hasn't been poured yet. Nobody moves until she arrives. Enzo Valenti, the man whispered about as Il Lupo in rooms where whispers can get you killed, hasn't blinked in 3 minutes. His hands rest flat against the mahogany table, fingers spread wide like he's trying to pin down the wood itself. Or maybe the future. Across from him sits a child's chair, and in that chair, a 7-year-old girl in a cream dress pulled so tight at the seams it might suffocate her. Gia Valenti doesn't squirm. She learned that lesson before she learned the alphabet. Outside, gravel crunches under tires that cost more than most weddings. The sound cuts through the silence like a blade through water, precise, inevitable, final. Every head in the room turns toward the entrance as one organism. Even the portraits on the walls seem to lean forward. The door opens without a knock. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Now let's get started. The woman who enters is barely 5 feet tall, swallowed by black fabric from throat to ankle, her silver hair twisted into a bun so severe it could draw blood. Donna Concetta Valenti moves like monarchy crossing a conquered border, and the temperature doesn't just drop. It plummets, crystallizes, becomes something you can taste on your tongue like copper. This is not a grandmother arriving to spoil her granddaughter with sweets and stories. This is an inquisition dressed in funeral clothes. Enzo rises. His chair doesn't scrape. He's practiced this. His daughter remains frozen, a porcelain doll someone forgot to animate. And in the suffocating silence that follows, while Donna Concetta's black eyes scan the room like a general surveying a battlefield she's already won, everyone understands the same truth. Whatever happens in the next 60 seconds will determine whether this child is embraced by her bloodline, or erased from it. The old woman's gaze finally settles on Gia. The room holds its breath. And the little girl, who has been trained since birth to make herself invisible, must now do the impossible. She must be seen. Donna Concetta doesn't knock the snow from her shoes. She tracks it across the marble foyer like she's marking territory, each wet footprint a declaration that this house, this American monument to new money and newer sins, now belongs to the old world. Behind her, 2 men in wool coats carry leather trunks that smell of mothballs and something darker. Cedar from coffins, maybe. Nobody asks. Enzo moves forward with the careful precision of a man approaching a loaded weapon. He doesn't embrace his mother. He doesn't kiss her cheeks. He bends at the waist in a bow that looks like it costs him vertebrae, and when he speaks, his voice has lost 20 years and gained an accent he buried decades ago. Matri. Benvenuto. Mother. Welcome. Donna Concetta's response is a sound, not quite a grunt, not quite a word, that communicates more disappointment than 1,000 sermons. Her eyes sweep the room with the cold efficiency of an accountant auditing souls. She catalogs everything, the crystal chandelier that's too bright, the leather furniture that's too soft, the oil paintings of landscapes she's never seen. American excess. American weakness. Her gaze lands on the men standing against the walls. Enzo's lieutenants. Young bucks in expensive suits with soft hands and university degrees, playing at being wolves. One of them, Marcus, the accountant with the Yale MBA, actually smiles at her. Tries to be charming. Donna Concetta's stare could freeze vodka. The smile dies. Marcus looks at his shoes like they might offer witness protection. Unie a pixarita? Where is the child? The question lands like a slap. Enzo's jaw tightens. For 3 seconds he considers lying, considers saying Gia is asleep, is sick, is anywhere but here. But you don't lie to Donna Concetta Valenti. She raised 7 sons in the mountains where lies were currency and she learned to smell counterfeit. He gestures to the dining room archway. Gia appears on cue, stepping into the light with the mechanical grace of a music box ballerina. Someone, probably Maria, the housekeeper, has dressed her like she's attending her own christening. White stockings. Patent leather shoes. Hair pulled back so tight her eyes look slightly Asian. She's been scrubbed raw, every trace of childhood washed away until what remains is just a vessel waiting to be filled with approval or condemnation. Donna Concetta approaches her slowly. The old woman's shoes click against marble like a judge's gavel counting down to verdict. She stops 3 feet away, close enough to touch but maintaining distance like a scientist observing a specimen. Close enough to see that Gia's hands are trembling. Close enough to see that the child is holding her breath. Talia Amia. Look at me. Gia's eyes lift. Brown meeting black. 7 years meeting 78. And in that moment, with 12 men watching and her father's entire world balanced on her narrow shoulders, Gia Valenti understands what nobody has told her but everyone knows. This woman didn't cross an ocean to meet her granddaughter. She came to decide if Gia deserves to exist. The table is set like an altar. Bone china that catches candlelight like ice catching fire. Silver so polished it reflects faces as distorted masks. The wine, a Nero d'Avola from the volcanic soil of Sicily, breathes in crystal decanters that cost more than the average mortgage payment. Everything positioned with the precision of a surgical theater because tonight, something will either be born or killed. Gia sits on a cushion that elevates her just enough to reach the table. Her hands rest in her lap, hidden beneath white linen, fingernails digging crescents into her palms. She's been here for 17 minutes and hasn't been permitted to speak. Hasn't been offered water. Hasn't been acknowledged except as an object that might be discussed later, after the men have finished their assessments. Donna Concetta presides from Enzo's right, the position of highest honor, her black dress making her look like a hole cut into the universe. She eats nothing, drinks nothing. Simply exists as a gravity well around which all conversation must orbit. The men attempt small talk, weather, business, the quality of American wine versus Sicilian, but every sentence dies unfinished under her basilisk stare. Enzo finally clears his throat. The sound is a gunshot in the silence. Gia. His voice is formal, distant, the tone of a stranger. You may greet your grandmother now. Every head turns. 12 men hold their breath. Maria, standing by the kitchen door, crosses herself. Gia slides off her chair. Her shoes touch marble with whispers. She approaches Donna Concetta with steps measured like a tightrope walker crossing the Grand Canyon, each movement rehearsed but never quite certain. 3 feet away. 2 feet. Close enough now to smell her grandmother's perfume, something ancient and medicinal, like funeral flowers preserved in alcohol. The child's lips part. She's supposed to say, "Hello, grandmother," in English, maybe Italian if she's feeling brave. That's what Maria taught her. That's what's safe. But what comes out instead freezes time itself. Benedetta City non Nina. Lu cori mi trima di canisarivi. The words are perfect. Not Italian, Sicilian. Not modern Sicilian. The mountain dialect of Corleone, the language of shepherds and widows, of blood oaths sworn under olive trees that have witnessed centuries. A dialect that hasn't been spoken outside Sicily in 2 generations. A dialect that even Enzo has tried to forget. The room doesn't gasp. It stops breathing entirely. Donna Concetta's hand tightens around her wine glass. The crystal doesn't just break. It explodes, red wine and glass shards erupting across white linen like an arterial wound. The old woman doesn't flinch. Doesn't look at her bleeding palm. She's staring at Gia with an expression that's half resurrection and half exorcism. Como? Oh. The word is a knife. Enzo is on his feet, but he's too late. The question has already been asked, and in this room, questions are subpoenas that carry the weight of confession. Marcus starts to speak. Donna Concetta raises her bleeding hand. He swallows his tongue. You pixeridu. The old woman's voice cracks like winter ice. Parla ancora. The child. Speak again. And Gia, with wine-dark blood dripping from the table between them like prophecy, opens her mouth. 3 months earlier, Gia had stood outside a Brighton Beach apartment building that smelled like salt water and disappointment. The address was written on a scrap of paper she'd found in her mother's jewelry box. Hidden beneath pearls that nobody wore anymore, tucked inside an envelope marked with a single word in fading ink, Ricorda. Remember. Maria thought Gia was at ballet. Enzo thought she was with Maria. The driver believed he was taking her to a friend's birthday party at a brownstone 6 blocks away. Everyone believed what they needed to believe because Gia had learned early that survival meant letting adults fill in their own blanks. The woman who answered the door was 1,000 years old and built from olive wood and iron nails. Signora Mancini stood barely 4.5 feet tall, her spine curved like a question mark, her hands gnarled from decades of work that Americans couldn't imagine. She wore black, had been wearing black, Gia would learn, since 1987 when her husband was murdered over a land dispute that started with a fence post and ended with 3 funerals. She looked at Gia for exactly 5 seconds. Then she started crying. Betta Matri. Beautiful mother. You have Isabella's eyes. The apartment was a museum of the dead. Photographs covered every wall, sepia-toned faces from villages that barely existed anymore, wedding portraits of people who'd been buried for generations, children frozen in Sunday clothes from decades past. The furniture was old country Baroque, heavy dark wood, doilies on every surface, religious icons competing for wall space with family portraits. It smelled like espresso and the specific type of loneliness that comes from outliving everyone you've ever loved. Your father told me you were forbidden, Signora Mancini said, setting out almond cookies that had probably been made during the Eisenhower administration. Told me if I contacted you, he would make sure I never saw Sicily again. Gia had sat on a sofa that felt like sitting on a church pew. My mother wanted me to find you. Your mother. The old woman's voice broke like glass. Your mother made me promise things. Before she died. Before the accident that was not an accident. That first day they'd spoken in English. But the second week, Signora Mancini had started mixing in Italian. By the third visit, she'd begun telling stories in the old dialect. Testing, always testing to see if the child's ear could hear what her father had tried to deafen. Gia heard everything. The language came to her like genetic memory, like something that had been sleeping in her blood waiting for permission to wake. Signora Mancini taught her the songs women sang while making bread. The prayers for dead children. The insults you could level at a man that would require blood payment. She taught her the difference between Sicilian and Italian, between the language of Rome and the language of mountains where Rome's laws had never quite reached. And on the bookshelf, behind a statue of the Virgin Mary, Signora Mancini kept Isabella's notebooks. Leather-bound journals filled with perfect handwriting. Confessions, accusations, truth. When you are ready, the old woman had said, I will read them to you. Your mother's voice. Your mother's words. Gia had been ready since the day she was born. The library smells like leather and secrets that have aged into the walls. Donna Concetta dismisses everyone with a gesture that could part seas. Enzo tries to stay. His mother's eyes tell him what his pride won't accept. He has already lost this battle. The door closes behind him with the finality of a crypt ceiling. Gia stands in the center of the Persian rug, hands clasped in front of her, while her grandmother circles like a prosecutor who's never lost a case. The old woman moves slowly, but her mind runs at the speed of vendetta. She's calculating angles, measuring distances between truth and lies, between accident and conspiracy. Cut insigna? Who taught you? Signora Mancini. Gia's voice doesn't shake. She's discovered something in the past 5 minutes. The language makes her braver. In English she's a child. In Sicilian she's something else. Donna Concetta stops moving. Angelina Mancini è morta. Angelina Mancini is dead. No nonnina. Vivia Brighton Beach. No grandmother. She lives in Brighton Beach. The old woman's face does something complicated. Surprise. Anger. Calculation. She crosses to the window overlooking the gardens where snow is beginning to fall like ash. When she speaks again, her voice has dropped into a register that could summon spirits. Dimmi lu nome di mi matri. Tell me my mother's name. Concetta Lucia Greco, nata a Corleone, morta di cori spizzata quando a te frati fu ammazzato. Concetta Lucia Greco, born in Corleone, died of a broken heart when your brother was murdered. Donna Concetta's shoulders tighten. E come muriu mi frati? And how did my brother die? Ammazzata di Salvatore Cusimano supra, na strada di montagna, pi, na disputa di acqua e terra. Trentasei Catalati. Lassero lu corpu pi li cani. Murdered by Salvatore Cusimano on a mountain road, over a dispute about water and land. 36 knife wounds. They left the body for the dogs. The silence that follows could suffocate birds mid-flight. These are not children's stories. Donna Concetta turns from the window. Her eyes are wet but her voice is stone. Who told you these things? Ma matri. My mother. Scrisai tutte quantum li so libri. Signora Mancini li legia mia. My mother. She wrote everything in her books. Signora Mancini reads them to me. Your father knows of these books? Patri non sapi niente. Father knows nothing. Pensa sie sugnu, na pixarita brava sia fe belletti e non parla. He thinks I'm a good little girl who does ballet and doesn't talk. Donna Concetta crosses the room in 3 strides that defy her age. She grips Gia's chin, tilting her face up into the lamplight, searching for something. Recognition. Resurrection. The face of a daughter-in-law who died too young under circumstances that were never quite explained satisfactorily. Chi otru sai? What else do you know? Gia takes a breath that tastes like crossing a border from which there's no return. Saciu como muriu ma matri. E saciu pici patri scapò di Sicilia. E saciu pri chi I cusimanu ancora vanu lu nostru sangu. I know how my mother died. And I know why father fled from Sicily. And I know why the Cusimanos still want our blood. The old woman releases her chin. steps back, crosses herself. Beta matri di Dio, she whispers. A pixarita sapi tutu. Sweet mother of God. The child knows everything. Enzo finds Signora Mancini at the address his mother extracted from Gia like a battlefield surgeon removing shrapnel. The Brighton Beach apartment building looks like it's been holding its breath since 1952, waiting for permission to collapse. He climbs 4 flights of stairs that smell like boiled cabbage and broken dreams, each step a countdown to a confrontation he spent 7 years trying to avoid. She's waiting for him. The door is already open. Lorenzo. She uses his full name like a mother scolding a child who's disappointed her. You look like your father. He was a coward too. Enzo's hand tightens on the doorframe. In any other context, with any other person, those words would require blood payment. But Signora Mancini earned the right to speak truth when she held his dying wife and promised things he still doesn't know about. You had no right. His voice is controlled, each word measured like a dose of poison. She's a child. She's Isabella's daughter. The old woman moves into the apartment, leaving him to follow or leave. He follows. You tried to make her American. Soft. Safe. You think you can erase blood with ballet lessons? The apartment is exactly what he expected and worse than he feared. Photographs of people he spent years trying to forget. The smell of espresso and the specific type of devotion that comes from people who believe suffering brings them closer to God. And on the table, like evidence at a murder trial, 3 leather-bound notebooks with his dead wife's handwriting on the spines. His legs forget how to support weight. No. The word comes out broken. You didn't. She made me promise. Signora Mancini sits in a chair that's probably older than both of them. Your wife. Before the car went into the river. Before the brakes that were not faulty failed at exactly the wrong moment on exactly the wrong curve. She made me swear on the Virgin that her daughter would know. Know what? Enzo's voice is rising, control slipping like ice under summer sun. That her mother was murdered? That I brought this family to America to escape a vendetta that won't die? That every day she lives puts a target on her back? That she is a Valenti. The old woman's voice could cut diamonds. That she comes from women who survived worse than you can imagine. That her blood carries stories you're too ashamed to tell. Enzo crosses to the table. Picks up the first notebook. Opens it to a random page. His wife's handwriting hits him like a fist to the solar plexus. If you're reading this, Lorenzo failed. He tried to make our daughter into something she's not. An American ghost with no past, no roots, no rage. But I am leaving her the truth. Every betrayal. Every murder. Every reason the Cusimanos put me in that river. And the location of the documents that prove what really happened to the Greco land deeds. Our daughter will need weapons. I'm giving her history. The notebook slips from his hands. How much does she know? Everything, Signora Mancini says. Every word. I read them to her like prayers. Outside, snow falls on Brooklyn like ash on Pompeii. The call comes at 2:47 a.m. to a social club in Red Hook where men play cards with money that doesn't appear on tax returns. Polly the Ear Cusimano, named for his talent for hearing things that shouldn't be heard, answers on the second ring. He listens for 90 seconds without speaking, his face doing complicated mathematics that end in murder. He hangs up. Looks at his cousin Vincent, who's pretending to read a newspaper from 3 days ago. The Valenti kid speaks Sicilian. Vincent doesn't look up from articles he's already memorized. So what? Half of Bensonhurst speaks Sicilian. Not like this. Polly lights a cigarette with hands that have strangled men for lesser offenses than interrupting his sleep. Mountain dialect. Corleone. The old words. Perfect, they're saying. Like she was born there. Now Vincent looks up. She's 7. She's a Valenti. And Donna Conchetta flew in from the old country to meet her. Polly exhales smoke like a dragon contemplating villages to burn. You know what that means. Vincent knows exactly what it means. In their world, legitimacy flows through the matriarch's blessing like electricity through copper wire. If Donna Conchetta accepts the child, if she claims her as blood, then Gia Valenti stops being Lorenzo's American mistake and becomes something far more dangerous. A chess piece that could be moved across the board in ways that reshape the entire game. She could be betrothed. Vincent says it like a diagnosis. To the Albanians. The Russians. Hell, the Calabrians if they get smart. Polly stabs his cigarette into an ashtray that's already overflow with the corpses of previous decisions. One marriage contract and suddenly Enzo's got alliances we spent 20 years preventing. Or worse. Or worse. Polly stands, walks to the window overlooking the street where garbage trucks are beginning their morning rounds. They raise her proper. Teach her the old ways. In 15 years she's not a bride. She's a boss. A woman who speaks the mountain tongue, carries the Valenti name, and has her grandmother's blessing? She could unite families we've kept divided since her grandfather's time. The social club falls silent except for the hum of a refrigerator that's been dying slowly since the Carter administration. The mother had to go. Vincent's voice is flat, stating facts like a coroner reading causes of death. We put Isabella in that river to send Lorenzo a message. Stay in your lane, keep your head down, forget Sicily exists. Now the daughter's doing exactly what we killed to prevent. Paulie turns from the window. His face has made its decision. Call Chicago. Tell them we need the specialist. The one who does children. Paulie. Vincent's voice carries a note of something that might be conscience but is probably just risk assessment. She's 7. Donna Conchetta's already claimed her. You kill that kid, you start a war we might not win. If we don't kill her, we've already lost. Paulie reaches for his coat. Make the call. I want her gone before she turns 8. The gunfire starts during the secondo piatto, right as Maria is bringing out the braised lamb that's been cooking since dawn. The first shot doesn't sound like the movies. It's a sharp crack that could be a car backfiring, could be fireworks, could be anything except what everyone knows it is. Enzo is moving before the second shot. He's grabbing Gia with one hand, his mother with the other, but the room explodes into chaos and suddenly there are too many bodies, too much noise. Marcus is screaming into a phone while glass shatters and the chandelier swings like a pendulum counting down to apocalypse. A window explodes inward. Then another. Gunmen in black tactical gear pour through like water through a broken dam, professionals who've done this before, who know exactly how many seconds they have before Enzo's security responds with the kind of firepower that turns estates into war zones. Gia feels her father's hand ripped from hers as he's pulled toward the panic room by his lieutenants who are trained to protect the boss first, always first, even if it means leaving a 7-year-old girl standing in the middle of gunfire like a statue of something that used to be alive. A hand closes around her wrist. Donna Conchetta, moving with speed that defies her 78 years, dragging Gia toward the kitchen while bullets chew through walls and men shout orders in English and Italian and the universal language of violence. They make it to the wine cellar. Down stone steps worn smooth by 100 years of servants carrying bottles to men who drank to forget what they'd done. Donna Conchetta slams the oak door, throws the iron bolt, and suddenly the world goes quiet except for their breathing and the muffled thunder of warfare happening upstairs in the land of the living. The cellar is medieval. Stone walls that weep moisture. Bottles caked in dust arranged like sleeping soldiers. A single bare bulb throwing shadows that look like ghosts judging the living for their choices. Gia is shaking so hard her teeth rattle. She's pressing herself against wine racks, trying to become smaller, trying to disappear the way she's been trained, but there's nowhere small enough, nowhere safe enough, and her mind keeps replaying the sound of glass breaking and her father's hand being torn from hers. Donna Conchetta kneels. The movement costs her something, pride, maybe, or years she doesn't have to spare, but she does it anyway, bringing herself eye level with her granddaughter for the first time since arriving. Talia and Mia. Look at me. Gia's eyes are wild, unfocused, seeing nothing. The old woman takes the child's face in hands that have washed the bodies of murdered sons, that have buried husbands and brothers, that have survived everything except forgetting. Talia and Mia Pixarita. Listen now. I teach you what your mother knew. What every Valenti woman knows. Above them, automatic weapons fire sounds like the world ending. Donna Conchetta begins to pray. Not in Italian. Not even in the mountain dialect. In something older, Latin mixed with words that predate Rome. A prayer that's been passed from mother to daughter through centuries of invasion and occupation and men who thought they could break what cannot be broken. Repeat, she commands. And Gia, with the world burning above her head, begins to learn the words that have kept Valenti women alive when their men were already dead. The gunfire stops like someone cut the strings on a puppet show. In the sudden silence, Gia can hear her own heartbeat trying to escape through her ribcage. She's been hiding in the wine cellar with Donna Conchetta for 17 minutes that felt like 17 years, breathing dust and terror while men died upstairs in her father's house. Donna Conchetta's hand is an iron vice around her wrist. Stay, the old woman hisses. Do not move. Do not breathe loud. But Gia hears boots on marble. Hears furniture overturning. Hears a voice, male Brooklyn accent thick as winter fog, shouting orders to check every room, find the girl, finish the job. She knows that voice from her mother's notebooks. From Signora Mancini's stories. From nightmares that are about to become prophecy. Dominic Cusimano. The enforcer. The man who probably cut her mother's break lines. I have to go up. Gia pulls against her grandmother's grip. They will kill you. They'll kill everyone looking for me. Gia's voice doesn't shake. The fear is there, crystallized in her chest like ice, but the words come out steady. Mamatri wrote about this. About the old law. La tregua sacra. Donna Conchetta's face goes white. You cannot. You are a child. You do not understand what you invoke. I understand that men are dying upstairs because of me. Gia twists free with a strength that surprises them both. And I understand that you're the only one who can make them stop. She's up the cellar stairs before her grandmother can grab her again, moving through the kitchen where pots are overturned and blood is pooling beneath the table where the cook, Sweet Maria who taught her to make cannoli, will never make anything again. Gia steps over the body without looking down because if she looks, she'll stop, and if she stops, more people die. The dining room is a war zone. Broken glass. Overturned chairs. 3 bodies in black suits, Enzo's men, execution-style bullet wounds turning the Persian rug into abstract art. And standing in the center of it all, gun still raised, is Dominic Cusimano, a man built like a concrete wall with eyes that calculate profit margins in corpses. He turns. Sees her. Smiles. Well shit. Saved us the trouble of hunting. Gia walks forward. 7 years old in a cream dress now stained with wine and dust, her hair falling loose from Maria's careful styling, looking like a ghost of every murdered child that ever haunted a killer's dreams. She stops 10 feet away. Close enough to be heard. Far enough to maybe run if this goes wrong. Firma. Stop. Dominic laughs. Sweetheart, I don't take orders from. No mudia tregua sacra, firma. In the name of the sacred truce, stop. The laughter dies like someone shot it. The ancient words hang in the air like a curse or a prayer or maybe both. Dominic's gun doesn't lower but his trigger finger hesitates. Behind Gia, footsteps. Donna Conchetta emerging from the cellar like a resurrection, black dress making her look like death's accountant. Lu pixeridu volia tregua. The child wants the truce. Iu sugnu Donna Conchetta Valenti, matriarcha d'esta casa. I am Donna Conchetta Valenti, matriarch of this house. Donna Conchetta doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Authority like hers was forged in centuries of survival, tempered in blood feuds that predated nations, and recognized by men who understand that some laws are older than governments and more binding than contracts signed in lawyers' offices. A tregua e confirmata. The truce is confirmed. Dominic Cusimano's jaw works like he's chewing glass. His gun is still raised, still aimed at a 7-year-old girl who just invoked a code that hasn't been used since his grandfather's time. Behind him, 2 more Cusimano soldiers have frozen in the doorway, caught between orders from Brooklyn and laws from a mountain village most of them have never seen. This is America, Dominic says, but his voice has lost its certainty. That old country bullshit doesn't. Tu si figlio di Salvatore Cusimano. You are the son of Salvatore Cusimano. Donna Conchetta moves forward, each step a declaration. Tu nonna era Giuseppina Greco di Prizzi. Itamin signa affari upani quanu avia atu anni. Your grandmother was Giuseppina Greco from Prizzi. She taught me to make bread when I was 8 years old. Dominic's gun lowers an inch. Just an inch, but it's enough. The girl invoked the sacred truce in the presence of a matriarch in her family home, during an act of aggression against blood heirs. Donna Conchetta's voice could etch stone. You know the law. Your father knew it. Your grandfather died defending it. If you pull that trigger now, you don't just kill a child. You kill 500 years of code that keeps us from being animals. The silence stretches like a wire about to snap. Dominic holsters his gun with a movement so violent it's almost a gunshot itself. This isn't over. It never was. Donna Conchetta doesn't blink. Tell Polly the dead is recorded. The truce holds for 90 days. After that, we negotiate like civilized people or we finish what our grandfathers started. The Cusimanos withdraw like a tide that promises to return, taking their dead and leaving behind corpses that will require explanations to police who won't ask too many questions because they never do. The front door closes. Car engines start. Gravel crunches under tires that cost more than most people earn in a year. And in the wreckage of the dining room, Enzo appears from wherever he's been hiding or fighting or dying. He's bleeding from a head wound, limping but alive. He looks at his daughter standing next to his mother, and something in his face breaks and rebuilds itself simultaneously. She can't stay. His voice is raw. I'll send her to California. New identity. New life. Somewhere they'll never know. Gia's voice is small but absolute. Baby, you don't understand what you've just. I am a Valenti. She uses Italian now, not Sicilian, speaking to her father in a language they can share. Mama wrote that you would try to make me run. She said running is what killed her. She said the only way to survive is to know more than they do. To be smarter. To learn. Enzo looks at his mother. Donna Concetta's face is stone. The child speaks truth, she says. You cannot hide her anymore. They know she exists. They know she carries the blood. Your choice now is simple. Send her away untrained and let them hunt her like prey, or give her the weapons to fight back. Enzo closes his eyes. When he opens them, they're wet. He extends his hand to his daughter. She takes it. Her fingers are so small in his palm they feel like bird bones, fragile things that could break with the wrong pressure. But when she squeezes, there's strength there. Isabella's strength. The strength of women who survived worse. He leads her to the library. The door is heavy oak, original to the house, brought from a monastery in Tuscany. It swings open on hinges that don't squeak because nothing in this house is allowed to make unnecessary noise. Inside, floor-to-ceiling shelves hold books in Italian, Sicilian, Latin. Histories. Genealogies. Ledgers that record debts going back 6 generations. Enzo pulls a leather volume from the top shelf. His family name is embossed in gold on the spine. If we do this, he says, and his voice is breaking, you stop being a child. You understand? No more ballet. No more pretending. You learn the names. The stories. The debts. You learn who to trust and who wants you dead and why. You learn to survive in a world that will never let you be normal. Gia looks up at him with eyes that are too old for her face. Teach me, she says. The door closes behind them with the sound of a cell locking or a tomb sealing or maybe a coronation beginning. Outside, sirens wail in the distance. Inside, a father opens a book and begins teaching his daughter the language of survival. And in the doorway, unseen, Donna Concetta crosses herself and whispers a prayer for the dead and the living and the child who has just chosen to be both.